Good morning. Welcome to Brew On It. My name is Megan, and I just finished my first book of 2025. I really thought it was going to be a 4-star, and then the ending hit and it bumped it up to a 5-star. And I'm still in all the feels right now, so I figured I'd do this when I was fresh. Got my tea, got my notes full of quotes. It was a great book. We meet Emily Emerson, who has just lost her grandmother. She's kind of reeling emotionally from the fact that her dad walked out when she was a kid, her mom died when she was 18, and now her beloved grandmother just passed. And there's all this mystery around her grandfather, and she receives a painting with a note basically alluding to the fact that there's more to the story. So she ends up going on this journey to Germany and back, physically and emotionally, just on a journey of forgiveness for herself and ultimately for others as well. She's grappling with her own mistakes and past, and it's just really a beautiful story of how hurt people hurt people. It highlights how making decisions for other people is not always the best idea. It also kind of highlights the fact that our childhood shapes who we are. We don't always take time to process through why we do the things we do. We just go, oh, that's who I am or whatever. And you see her have to come to grips of how there's a domino effect in her life. This was not a light read by any means. There's a lot of family and family drama and family dysfunction. Favorite quotes from this book. The first one is stated and then restated more simply. So here's the first one. Our greatest accomplishment is not in never failing, but in getting up each time we fail. And I thought that was better rephrased, or more easily rephrased. It isn't falling that matters, it's getting up to try again. The next one is, life is a succession of lessons which must be lived to be understood. Isn't that the truth? And then the last one that stuck out to me was, I would tell you that the things we do in life can be mistakes, but the road we find ourselves on never is. Just a nice reminder of the sovereignty of God. You may not know where you're going, but He does. So all in all, it was a great book. Definitely pulled on the heartstrings. I teared up a little bit at the end, but I would totally give it 5 stars. And if you're in for messy characters, authentic characters, real life characters, if you're into self-discovery, self-betterment, I would say that Emily's life journey here, that the little bits that she shares with us in this story of When We Meet Again, are definitely worth a read. So, on to the next. We are going over book 2, Nobody's Perfect, by Sally Kilpatrick. Our main character is named Vivian. She is in her 40s, 25 years married, has a kid going off to college, YouTuber, a lot of correlations. So I connected right away to the main character. At the beginning of this book, we find Vivian bemoaning how life is about to change because she's entering the empty nest phase and they've been planning a move to Florida. She has a wine night that she does with her 2 best friends on the cul-de-sac, and she doesn't know what she'll do without them. Vivian finds out that her husband of 25 years doesn't want to do the next phase of life with her, which is a major downer, but simultaneously she's having her career take off. It all spirals when her video goes viral, and it complicates all her relationships with the people that she knows, from her mother to her husband to the neighbors to her best friends. And you're just like, whew, makes you think twice about putting stuff on YouTube, that's for sure. And this was a fun read. This is definitely a read to pair with a glass of wine. As you can see from the cover, there is little badges, and wine is a main theme throughout this entire book. Her YouTube channel focuses kind of on giving out badges for making it through difficult things in life, and I really liked that because we don't give ourselves enough credit. Some of the names of the badges just made me giggle. So she starts to go, okay, what do I like? What do I do? And this quote says, you may have to ask yourself what you don't want in order to figure out what you do want. Her mom says, you went into your marriage with trust and love, and I hate that someone took that from you. Right and wrong are pretty darn subjective. We've both been doing the best we could, and that's motherhood. And I loved the compassion that her mom had. So at one point, our main character is bemoaning life, and she says, shouldn't I be old enough to not have to keep learning these same lessons? And her mom answers her and says, basically, when we stop learning, we die. So I was like, I have felt that way too. Like, I'm 40. Why am I just getting this now? It's like, well, I guess that's why we're given life. It's to keep learning, keep growing. Another one of the quotes was, I think everyone's entitled to do something crazy when their heart is broken. And I'm like, heck yeah. It was a fun read, despite it having some hard life lessons in there. So, okay, I just read Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. I had been chomping at the bit to get number 3. Book 1 in the When in Rome series follows Noah, the oldest Walker sibling, and he is a local baker, and he has a famous pop star come into town and sweep him off his feet. Book 2 is Practice Makes Perfect, and we have the younger Walker sibling, Annie, who runs the local flower shop, and she catches eyes with a in-town bodyguard, temporary in-town bodyguard, and decides, oh, he can make me more interesting, because she had overheard a previous suitor describe her as boring. And she thought, well, maybe I need some practice. And now number 3 in the When in Rome series is Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. And this one we follow another Walker sibling. We meet Emily Walker, who is a type A, thrives on control and routines and being useful to people. And she has a nemesis, and it is a fellow second grade teacher at the local school who she thought she'd gotten rid of, and he turns back up in town. Jack Bennett, unbeknownst to her, is a mystery author, and he writes under a pen name. So yet another area of competition for these two, since she has a secret literary side hustle that she's been working on. The two become neighbors for the summer, and she ends up enlisting his help to retrieve her mistakenly sent manuscript. And Jack surprisingly agrees to help her. So the two of them team up and sparks fly. Emily and Jack both have childhood traumas that complicate their communication, and that adds to the tension. So this is a rivals to lovers trope, and that's one of my favorites. The chemistry, feuding, banter, bicker relationship they have was very enjoyable. I have 3 quotes for you. She told me to find someone someday who will hug me when I'm sad and then help me look on the bright side of things when all I can see is the dark. Another quote I liked was, stop doing that. I balled my hands into fists. Stop doing what? Perceiving me so much. That quote hit home for me because it takes me time to process, and a lot of times my spouse can tell what I'm feeling before I even can. This next quote does have a swear in it, so I'll preface that. Life can be a little shit sometimes, but shit also makes great fertilizer. She pats the back of my hand that's holding hers. Grow from your experience. Don't let them smother the light out of you. This was another 5-star for me. This was not a closed door romance, however. She did give a author's note in the beginning letting us know which chapters we could skip or skim to keep it a closed door romance. So if you're looking for another sweet romance, stay in Rome, Kentucky. Okay, so I did it again. I promised myself I wouldn't read any more war novels right now. I've read a lot of historical fiction, but this one had been on my TBR for a while, and when I reread the synopsis, I remembered that it was set in Russia, and if you know anything about me, I was raised as a missionary kid, and I'm a little bit of a Slavophile. Didn't stand a chance. Lived in former Yugoslavia when I was little, and then Russia, and then Ukraine, And yeah, anything Slavic kind of sucks me in. So here we are again. I read The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. We follow the story of Ludmila, who is a young girl who is seduced by an older, successful doctor. They end up having a child together, and then it kind of starts with their estrangement. In the midst of her studies to become a historian, World War II breaks out, and she enlists. Because she had done some marksmanship courses with friends on the side, she ends up becoming a sniper. She gets the nickname Lady Death and has over 300 kills to her name. But this woman shows some tenacity, man. She is hurt multiple times and keeps getting up. Ludmila's descriptions of being both prey and predator during the war were very moving. And it's a bit of a dual timeline. We have her backstory happening alongside her goodwill tour of Washington, and she ends up going on across the country speaking and trying to get the Americans to be more involved in the war. And it was very inspiring to read. And then halfway through, I found out, oh, this is based on a true story. So even cooler. I actually looked up some of the pictures online to see what Ludmila really looked like. It was just cool. So I was geeking out a little bit over that. And we meet Alexei, her husband, who she had a son with, and they're not the best of friends. They're estranged. And then we meet her sniper shadow called Kostya, and we also meet a young lieutenant who tries to woo her in the midst of World War II. So this story is full of trauma and romance. The next story I read was called Crimson Moss, and it is all wrapped up around a character named Rune who goes through a traumatic childhood loss, and her mission in life evolves out of that. She is a socialite during the day and a caped crusader at night. And it's a little bit of a Bruce Wayne thing going on where she is putting on a mask to one set of people while they're blaming the people that she's trying to save for being evil. So it's one regime for another, blaming one set of group instead of those with magical abilities and those without. There is a period of time where witches are in power, and now they are basically hunted. And somebody she loved was a witch. She is trying to smuggle out the witches from her country. And you're following, will she be able to get to the witches in time? We have Rune, the main character, who is a young girl. We have Verity, which is her kind of accomplice slash best friend. We have Alex, which is her best friend, who's obviously madly in love with her, and she's clueless. And then we have Gideon, who is the main hunter of witches, brothers with her best friend, Alex. I don't typically like reading books about witches and dark things, but this was definitely more fantastical, kind of like a Harry Potter wizardry thing. There wasn't any real spells that they were reading. It wasn't dark. Let's put it that way. It was cute. And it was a fascinating read. I'm actually looking forward to number 2, and we will see where they take it because it ended in quite the unexpected way. I am finally outside. It's not freezing in Florida. Yay! This is my last book review of January. My bookshelf challenge word for January was beauty. So I read a fairy tale retelling of Beauty and the Beast. It was called Enchanting Fate by Ashley Evercott. It was the first in a fairy tale retelling series. The tagline was, "Love and sacrifice often go hand in hand." We follow Marguerite and Henry as they both grow. I love the Beauty and the Beast retelling because I feel like we all have a little beast in us and we're all on a journey to become better people. I really wanted to love this one, but it wasn't my cup of tea. The author had left in some typos that threw me out of the story, and I just found the story to be a little slow moving. This was the typical Beauty and the Beast ending, in my opinion, and of course, in the end, they learn their lesson and they're not crappy people. So There were some good quotes, however, so we'll go there. So, one of the first quotes, there was only so much she could do to fill the ache inside him. A responsibility she learned was never hers to fill. There is a dynamic tension between selfishness and serving others. And when you can fall in that middle place, I think you can keep a healthy balance. But it says here, there's a quote, it says, "It may seem noble, but I'm afraid if you live your life solely for them, you will waste your life wondering what you could have done for yourself." The beauty in this story was definitely falling into that category of dying to self so much that basically she didn't have a self left. So here's another quote. "I saw a man with potential, a good man, and a true friend. You have been a long time ago, but it's in you somewhere." A hopeful quote. Love can mend even the most broken of spirits. And as you get to the end of the Beauty and the Beast and you actually see that he's starting to grow and change, this quote stuck out to me. "For all his mistakes, her heart warmed upon seeing the new man in front of her, one who admitted his wrongdoings, who felt ashamed of them, and more importantly, one who was willing to amend them." At the end of Beauty and the Beast, too, we see where Beauty has grown, and she says, "I don't care what others may think now. I am making my path, and I choose you." People won't always agree with our decisions, but at the end of the day, it's our decision. I pressed through and finished it, but I only give this one a 3-star. So I have my eye on a few books for February. My bookshelf challenge word is size. And if you have read any of these books, I hope you will leave a comment below. If you have a favorite Beauty and the Beast retelling, I hope you'll share those with me as well. And if you would share the channel with another book lover, that'd be great. Thank you.